Hi, I'm Phil Hearn, and in today's podcast I'm going to be looking at the rise of online dashboards and how important they are and where do I think they're going in market research. So join me today to talk about online dashboards. Hi, I'm Phil Hearn, and in today's podcast I'm going to be looking at the rise of online dashboards, why they're important, and where they might be going in the near future, and some things to think about if you're really seriously considering getting into having online dashboards from your surveys. So where do we start? Well, I'm going to start perhaps in the past, and what I'm going to do is perhaps just talk about where online dashboards have come from, because a few years ago they had a very different image, I think, in market research, and they were used, but perhaps rarely and sparingly, only on certain types of projects. So what is it that's changed and what was going on 5 years ago? Well, the problem was that the tools that were available were generally overpriced or too expensive, not really aimed at market research, typically coming more from a business intelligence type of background. So they were tools that were really aimed at not at market research, but other types of commercial data. And one of the things that I talked about before is that commercial data and market research data are quite different in many ways. Most business data that's out there tends to be several thousand records or sometimes millions of records with a small number of fields. Those fields tend to be single answers. Sometimes they're text, sometimes they're values, but they're relatively simple spreadsheet type data, you might think of it as, although they're obviously held in databases. Market research data is a lot more complicated. Market research data tends to be fairly small numbers of records, often 500 records, sometimes thousands, but really not quite the scale of most other business data. But it has several fields and often hundreds and even thousands of fields, because we ask a lot of questions, and we ask things like multi-response questions, which take up a lot of fields, and have questionnaires that run often for 15, 30 minutes and much beyond that. So the data is very different, and the tools that are out there or have been out there traditionally for handling and producing online dashboards haven't particularly been focused on the market research industry. And so when people tried to put market research data into dashboards, even just a couple of years ago up to recently, the pricing really was geared at only the biggest market research projects. So projects where perhaps there's a big tracking study, maybe a multi-country study, but something where that was big about it, or perhaps needed a lot of people to access the data, not the regular medium-sized or small market research project. So dashboards have really not developed in market research as fast as perhaps I would have hoped, and I think probably the industry would have benefited from. They've been slow to come into the main arena, whereas with other business data, dashboards are seen quite regularly and data is managed that way. I have clients in the insurance industry, for example, where their data from inquiries and information like that are instantly available in online dashboards that can be browsed and interrogated. So market research, if you like, is a little bit behind here and needing to catch up. And the dashboards that were produced certainly 3, 4, 5 years ago would typically, or many of them, were customized dashboards where somebody had developed a page or pages, rather like developing a website, so that data could be interrogated or viewed. And that was a slow process, it was an expensive process, and it meant other things as well, such as making changes to that dashboard was slow or expensive again, whereby if a client wanted to just add a few new features to update the dashboard or freshen it up in some way or plug in some additional information, that wasn't something that was easy to do and wasn't something that could be delivered, if you like, overnight. So customized dashboards had their day and they were applicable to a small number of market research projects, the bigger ones typically, but really haven't progressed as much as I would have liked. And I think now things are changing, and this is a good time, I think, to review that. So why are they changing? Well, it would be nice to think that the pressure had come from the top, that these top of the range packages have got cheaper, were more viable for smaller projects. But actually, that's not where the pressures come from. The pressures come from the bottom. And it's come from a lot of these low cost and even free online data collection tools, where many of them now have plugged in a dashboard capability. And that capability might be quite basic, it might be quite limited in what it can offer, but nonetheless, getting from survey data to a dashboard is something that people are starting to see and get used to, and I think the clients are liking. So even on a small online project that's carried out in a low-cost piece of software, it's often possible now to get out a dashboard of some sort so that clients can interrogate that data, view it online, maybe drop that data down into Excel to play with, but they've got access to their data, because in this modern world, people expect data at their fingertips. We're all used now to having data at our fingertips when we want it. Whatever we're doing in our personal life or our business life, data, it should be and is typically instantly available, whereas market research has suffered to a great extent because we keep it at a distance and we deliver it in a PowerPoint report, which has served the industry very well maybe for 20 years, but really isn't the modern way of delivering data. And PowerPoint has its problems. Sharing data that's inside a Power report is not particularly convenient. If a colleague wants to get some information out, they've got to go into that file, find the relevant part. It might not tell them what they want. And what often happens is that data is wasted because someone hasn't got the time to do that. If it's online, you can click onto whatever it is you've got to click into, interrogate the data, and you've got the results that you need at your fingertips to take to a meeting or whatever else it might be. So where does Mrdc software sit in all this? Well, I've thought for a long while this is a really important place for us to be, that providing data and making data accessible is something that really is at the top of our list, and something that we've needed to address. We've put a lot of work into productivity in our software in the last 10 years, but clearly now the next step is to deliver data so that it's accessible in exactly the form people want. And one of those forms is in an online dashboard. And that's why we partnered with CYS. And there's, I would say, 4 reasons why we partnered with CYS. And they're not necessarily the most typical reasons. Well, one of the reasons perhaps is typical. Its tools, I think, are really good for data visualization. There's a lot of widgets in there that allow you to present the data in all sorts of ways very, very easily. So you can just drag and drop and build a very quick dashboard very easily. So that's obviously an attraction. So I like that. That's something that I think probably is something that you need as a starting point, and having that flexibility and being able to build your own infographics, all those sorts of things are really important. And that, for one, put it high on my list. But that wasn't the main reason that we partnered with CYS platform, and that we're connecting and have connected our software, all the products, to that platform. We haven't finished that exercise yet. We're going through that transition at the moment, but it's something that we're expediting very quickly. So what are those other 3 reasons then? Well, I'm going to take them in an interesting order. I liked the development path of CYS. I like where it's going. I like the fact that in its development plans and already actually available now are tools to unfold a story within your dashboard. So rather than just putting up charts, infographics, it's possible to have things that move within the dashboard that unfold and tell a story. So that's going to be something that's in its early stages, but I think will grow and grow, because it's one thing you can't do in PowerPoint. PowerPoint is completely static, and it's something that's not traditionally been done in dashboards. Dashboards has been more about exploring data, but if it can tell a story as well, I think that really adds power to it. So I like the development path. And I like the commitment to improving how data management works. And that's really my third point. Already the tools in the CYS platform are packed with good data management capabilities so that you can match data up from different surveys. You can show data from different surveys side by side. You can recode data that doesn't quite match. So if data's been collected in 5 regions in one survey, but in 10 in another, you can merge those 10 regions into 5 so that the data is comparable, and obviously much more complex reasons than that. But that's just a sort of simple example of what's possible. So I think that's a really important thing. Data management, I really do believe, is something underestimated. I'll come back to that in a short while. But I think also the pricing is the thing that really convinced me, the pricing model rather than the pricing perhaps. I think that all the pricing models that I've seen so far are either just too expensive, like the starting price is sort of $20,000, in some cases $100,000 a year to use these platforms. So that puts it out the reach of too many market research agencies, certainly all the small ones and probably most of the medium, probably not all the medium ones. So that's a barrier that I think needs to be addressed. And the pricing for some platforms is per project. Well, I know of products out there that are priced at something like £4,000 per project per year, which is about $5,000 to $6,000 current exchange rates per year. That's okay if it's a big project or reasonable sized project and a tracking study where you want the data available permanently or permanently updated. But that's quite expensive for a project that may be a 10-15 minute interview where you're surveying 500 people. It's way outside that budget in most cases and really isn't attractive to most market research companies, just the bigger ones. So what's the pricing model of the CYS platform? Well, the pricing model is a fixed price per year, which is affordable. It comes in 2 or 3 sizes. But then incrementally, if you want to add another project, you're talking about $99 a month to add another project, and even less as you add more projects. So it's very, very economical to add more projects and deliver a small project to your client, maybe give them access to it for 2 to 3, 4 months until they perhaps, if you like, exhausted the use of that product before you use that license or that capability to go on to the next project and deliver something to another client. And this is what clients want. Clients want access to their data. They want to be able to interrogate their data at their leisure, share it with colleagues easily, so it's just a login and just a click, and they've got the information they need at their fingertips. So these are all really important things. Now, I said I'd come back to the issue of data management, and it's not a very exciting topic. I've always admitted that, but it's one that's increasingly important, and I think one that market research agencies need to keep taking more and more seriously. Market research is going in the direction of wanting to promote itself at a higher level, and to achieve that, it's got to put other data alongside its research data, and that might be other data from other surveys, data that's come from other agencies, even from other surveys that have been conducted by other agencies, but it might be other data that's important to your clients, and that might be sales data, that might be targets, that might be the number of inquiries, it might be KPIs, targets, all sorts of data that's relevant to your customer. And it's important that in data management, you can not only handle the research data how you want to, and handle, if you like, multi-response questions, which are unusual and special to market research, but alongside that, you can put other business data, such as sales data, as I just explained. So the CYS platform lets you do that. You can put all the data together in one dashboard, so it has much more meaning and power to your clients. And as I've heard it described by some of our clients, as sort of putting market research in the boardroom, because you're actually presenting research data alongside other key business data. So that's really something I think that's growing. and important to market research. And data management, I think, is something that is highly underestimated and something that people just need going into the future, and being able to deliver data as clients want it as well. It might be you need to push data into their client, into their databases to feed back your research data. This is on top of perhaps providing dashboards, but again, data management is really going to become something that's more and more important, even though it's a very unexciting topic to talk about. So what does this all mean? Well, I think it all means that just as PowerPoint's been the norm in market researchers delivering research for the last 20 years, I think online dashboards are going to be the future of market research. It should become the norm and affordable so that every project you run, more or less, perhaps not the really, really small ones of 2 or 3 questions, but even then, they fit into dashboards very well, particularly if they're tracking data, customer feedback data, for example. But really the target should be that every project can be delivered online. And I think that's where we're going, that we're feeding all our data through so that if you want it in reports, which might be possible, you want PDF reports or something like that, yes, that's possible. But if you want it in a dashboard, which I think most clients do, that should be something that's easy to do, that can be delivered arguably quicker than the PowerPoint reports that require a lot of manual work at the moment. And there's something that clients can have access to almost immediately a survey is completed. So that's what I've been talking about. That's where I think things are going. We'd like to talk to people who really are perhaps thinking in the same sort of way. And if you're not thinking the same sort of way, we'd like to persuade you and open up a dialogue, because I think this is really the start of an exciting era for market research and something that can be pursued. So thank you for joining me today. I hope you found this interesting. Really want to open up as many dialogues as we can about online dashboards, and I'd love to hear what's important to you and your clients, and perhaps experiment on a project or 2 with you so that you can deliver something that's really helpful to your clients and look at what really benefits your business, because I really think this is an opportunity for market research to move forward. So thank you for joining me. I hope you found this interesting, and I hope to talk to you again soon. Thank you. Goodbye.